Alright, welcome back to episode 8. Yeah, it's episode 8 of the Speakeasy Dweller podcast. This time it's just gonna be me. I'm gonna just be speaking for myself. I'm going off on a rant, tell you guys a couple stories of what happened over quarantine. I was doing a I wouldn't say really Q&A thing, it was more of just a suggestion thing on Instagram. And I asked people what could be a podcast topic. So I'm scrolling through these. So we get one person. Oh my gosh. Why does that happen? Why why is it like this? Uh um do do I just have to constantly be in this? I guess I could just leave myself alone in here. Um I wonder if there's a way that I can stop Clive from kicking me out of this stuff. Um How to be in a voice call by yourself. Okay, unless you're using the mobile app. Alright, looks like I might call something. Can I make an alt account? Is that something? Because it's just gonna kick me again. Um, hmm. Alt account. Alright, let's create an alt account here. Let me friend it. Um, let's see. Alt for Jared. That's gonna be my username. Ian. I'm just gonna say I was born November 28th, 2007. Sounds about right. Skip. Yeah, I'll skip adding a profile picture. Skip adding friends. Skip. Do not create my own server. Add a friend. Let's figure out this process for maybe. Hopefully, it doesn't kick me out in that amount of time. Alright, there we go. Hold on. Let me figure this out. So, if I put myself in a call with this guy, alright? Alright. I deafen myself there. Now, if I go to background with two people, and that obviously does not work. So exactly is the problem here? Is it just that it doesn't have, oh, it's window capture. We have to, okay, all for Jared, there we go. That's how it works. Then for number 2, yeah, it's gonna be the same thing. Yep, alright. Uh, and then that's just gonna have to be awkward. So I'm gonna have to delete that. remove, and then now we're gonna add scene with one out of two out of two people. Move that in there. Boom. I'm such a genius at this. All right. Ah, so that problem's settled. Now I'm just basically just talking to myself now, as I was already doing. Uh, actually, hold on. I actually need to charge my phone now because now I need to make sure that this guy doesn't get kicked out. So, anyways, I ended up asking people on Instagram what do they thought would be good podcast topics to talk about, and one person decided to say uh talk about I should talk about the Viet Quanga line. But I mean, the one problem with that, at least for me, is that nobody else except for the 100 or so people that were on Allstate with me know about the Via Quanga line. I mean, we posted about it on Instagram a whole bunch, but I don't think they truly get the idea of the Via Quanga line. Like it's just like a big old inside joke. But I mean, I could probably talk about it, just discuss about it right here and now. But it'd probably be better if I actually had a person from Allstate to talk to about this. But I'll just talk about it for myself. So when we went to Allstate, we had to prepare three pieces to play. There was Rest by Frank DeChelli, pair of sketches by Martin Ellerby, and then there was a song named Full Circle by Viet Quang. And it was funny because they sent us all these links to listen to videos in order to help us with our seating auditions, in order to prepare these pieces. And Full Circle wasn't even a link. It was a MIDI file that I had to upload, not upload, download, in order to sound what it was. And all these electronic sounds, I'm like, is this piece just never been played? And then I get to Rochester for Allstate, and all of a sudden I get told that this is the third time the song has ever been performed, and it's going to be the first time that the song is going to be recorded. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So and then Dr. Mickelson, the band director of Ohio State, ends up telling us that the composer Viet Guang is actually going to be coming in, and he's actually going to be helping us play the piece. So he's going to give his own little like composer insight. And I'm like, oh, that's totally not a lot of pressure because this is one of the most difficult pieces out of all of them. Because of all like the weird rhythms that it has, the weird time signature, the outrageous things it's telling us to do. Overall, very painful stuff, especially for being a woodwind, or especially a brass player. Woodwinds are kind of used to brass people. That's uncharted territory right there. But anyways, so he comes in, and I'm over here. Most composers, nowadays are very older gentlemen, like 50s, and older women, 40s, 50s. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna get, someone looking like, Frank DeChelli, or, we're gonna get someone looking like John Williams coming in. And he comes in, and it's this young kid, like fresh out of college, and he had this just brilliant mind, musical mind. And I'm like, this guy couldn't. I was talking to the person right next to me, and I'm like, this person can't be any older than 30. I I searched him up on the internet. He's actually 29. Like, oh my gosh, this guy's a genius. Like, like my man. I I I I'm amazed by the work that he's been able to produce. despite even being this young of a composer. But he was just an excellent guy. He's some guy that you would, you take out that like drink for coffee or something. Like he was just a very nice guy to talk to. And he became an instant sensation. We're like, woo, we love Viet Quang. Viet Quang is so cool. And then what really solidified it, so everybody pretty much forgot about it. We're like, oh, okay, we met the composer. Very cool. Not many people can say they met the composer of a piece that they're playing. And then I'm chilling down, and I'm with my two friends, and one of my two friends, Lila and Ethan, and one of Lila's friends. And ended up, Lila's friend and her ended up getting McDonald's, and asked me and Ethan to come down to, eat McDonald's with them. I was like, okay. I mean, food, I guess. So we're over there having a blast. We know it's just the four of us. There's a bunch of other cliques in the area, with people being from the same district or, similar instruments, just having a good old time. It was very much of an entire family of people, despite even knowing each other for maybe like a day or so. It was just everybody was just hitting it off. Everyone's just having a blast. So we're in a hotel, right? And we're in the lobby. And all of a sudden, I look over to my left. I see a group of three guys over by the computer. They're looking up. I'm like, who uses a hotel computer in the first place? Like those things are so old. Like I I I could even I could even upload. Sorry, I could even do typing.com on a hotel computer because that's how old it was. It just didn't have the version this to be able to support typing.com, a website where you type. Anyways, so all of a sudden I'm looking at them, and then they start printing pictures, and I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they just printing? Who like why would you do that? And then all of a sudden they come over and it's like, here, have this. Look at our Lord and Savior. And I'm looking at this. I have the first copy fresh off the press, and it's in my hand. I can still feel the heat of it, and I'm holding it, and it's a picture. It's a headshot of Viet Quang, and they asked if we had tape and stuff because they wanted to hang it around. We're like, no. So they ended up handing it to all these different people. They barely had like 20 papers worth of Viet Quang. They had 20 papers worth, and they were just passing them around to people. And we're all dying, right? Because this is so incredibly funny. Like now people are just getting random photos. Well, I won't say random photos. Now random people. There we go. Random people are just getting photos of Viet Quang with no context really. So there ended up also being a dance that was going on above us. We were on the lobby floor, and then the floor above that, floor one, is where we would practice. It would have all the ballrooms and stuff like that, where we would have dinner, and then it's also where this dance party was. And me and Ethan go up there because it's like 10 o'clock, and the dance is supposed to go off. Sorry, it's supposed to stop at until like 10:30. And we're like, okay, even though we're like very socially awkward kids, let's let's go up there, see what's up, head out. So we're going up there. I'm trucking along, and all of a sudden I walk into the room, and they're all yelling, "Viet Quang, Viet Quang, Viet Quang," and I'm like, "What in the world?" And I see a group of 10 guys huddling around each other, each with their own individual copy of Viet Quang, and they're running around with it, with the paper above their heads, and they're having the time of their life. And all pretty much overnight, Viet Quang became a an overnight sensation. He became an instant sensation. Everybody loved him. We basically formed a cult around Viet Quang. And on top of that, there ended up coming up with a song, and we all got, all of like 20 of us ended up, actually, was it 20 of us? Eh, it was 20 of us. But I think towards the end of it, it was around like 10 of us. We ended up all getting into a line. And we all of a sudden started parading around the little dance room, or it was a ballroom, but it was our dance room. And we all ended up showing everybody our pictures of Viet Quang, and everyone's taking photos and stuff like that. Everyone's having the time of their life. And we dubbed it the Kwanga line because, Viet Quang, Quang, Conga, Kwanga. Yeah, you get it in the end. So, anyways, so it was very funny the next day because we're starting to worship man like he's a god. And Dr. Mickelson ends up mentioning him during one of our pieces, during our thing of during our rehearsal of not rest, during our rehearsal full circle, and he's like, "Wow, what do you guys think of that Viet Quang fella? He's a pretty cool guy, cause he obviously respects him." And everyone's dying because we all know about what happened at the dance with the entire Viet Quanga line. Sorry, not the Viet Quanga line, the Quanga line, and everybody having their own like copy of Viet Quang. Like even I had two copies. I had one in my room, and I ended up having one in my folder, and I ended up actually giving away a couple to people as like souvenirs and stuff like that. And everyone had their thing of Viet Quang, and we're all dying. And Dr. Mickelson was a bit confused. So after rehearsal, there was an ice cream social that happened. But him being the band director from Ohio State, I'm I'm fanboying over this guy. Like this guy is the band director of a band that I've been looking up to since I was a freshman in high school. Like this was the creme de la creme of high school of college marching bands, and I was able to get taught by this guy. So obviously, I wanted to get things signed. I wanted to have a conversation with them. I wanted to get a picture, and there was about 20 of us, and we ended up having, maybe almost an hour conversation with Dr. Mickelson. All of us asking questions, um, all of us having dialogue, musical dialogue with each other. Um, and even though rehearsal got out at 9 o'clock and the ice cream social would be until 10:30, we all were like, okay, we don't really care for the ice cream. We care about this guy. Like we could care less about the ice cream, and we ended up having a conversation with him for the next hour. But anyways, um, we somehow Viet Quang was brought up in a sentence, and uh, Dr. Maxwell says, like, yeah, you guys really seem to love that guy. And we told them the entire thing about the Kwanga line, having headshots of him in our folders, mass printing them, everybody has it. And he just started dying. And I'm like, well, if our band director loves him, it, if our band director thinks it's funny, it's got to be really funny. So that was the peak of that. But that's the entire story about Viet Quang and the Kwanga line. Um, let's see. Any other topics that I can think that I can look at off the top of my head? All right. Edward wants me to talk about him. Cody wants me to have him talk more. Jay wants me to talk about True Grime. There's like three people who put in the term "your mom." I'm like, ha ha ha, you're funny. I already discussed about one of my favorite fonts to use on Word, and it's Times New Roman. Call me a basic person, but that's just how it is. Um, talk about Edward. I mean, there's nothing really much other to say about the guy. Like, he's 6'8", got a wicked sense of humor. Like, what more can you say about? He plays the trumpet. Like, he's just a great guy. I don't really know what else to say about that. True crime. I guess the really one true crime is putting milk in before the cereal. That's completely unbased. That's just why. Why would you put in milk in before the cereal? Everybody knows that you put milk in after you put in the cereal. Cereal is always first, so you know how much milk you have to put in. Like, that's just common knowledge. But yet some lunatics think that's okay. That actually gauge the opposite. They gauge the amount of actual physical substance you get based off the liquid substance you get. Like, those things just don't mix. You can't just do that to yourself. The entire point of having cereal is to have the cereal, and then the milk is just an add-on. Your breakfast isn't the milk. Your breakfast is the cereal. So why would you gauge the amount of cereal based off the amount of add-ons you add on? Like, the milk is just a side thing. You don't have to have milk with your cereal. Like, that's just not how it works. You add the milk in afterwards, after you already figure out how much cereal, how much actual breakfast you want. But anyways, another your mom thing. Another your mom thing. Um, Tyler wants me to talk about the rise and fall of the San Antonio Shook. Oh boy. So this was towards the beginning of quarantine, and I had a lot of time to myself, like a lot of downtime to myself at home. And I ended up playing more of a little game called Overwatch. It's not really a little game, but it's a very old game. It was released all the way in 2016, so it's like their 5th year anniversary of it. But I ended up picking up that game, and ended up meeting a bunch of guys, um, and we ended up having a blast playing the game. And I suggested to them that we should group up together and we should form an esports team. And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds like a brilliant idea. We really, I think all of us together, we'd really do something with that. So I go through the process of creating the San Antonio Shook. Now the entire premise of the name was that it was a mockery, or it was not necessarily a mockery, but it was an off-brand. That was the entire point of being off-brand. Like, in order to if for like movies, in order to escape copyright, you know, instead of the Wendy's, it's like Mendy's or whatever. It's in order to escape copyright, but it's like a it's a variation. It's off-brand Wendy's. So I tried to do something similar with us being an off-brand Overwatch League team. And the Overwatch League team that we were basing ourselves on was the San Francisco Shock. So what could be the next best thing of San Francisco Shock? Well, we got the San Antonio Shook. So that was the entire premise of that. I even copied their logo and like hand drew it just to accentuate that we're just off-brand. All these different colors and stuff like that. There's probably a picture of it on the screen somewhere. But so you can like compare the two. But anyways, so we eventually get our roster together, and there are around 9 of us, I believe, and we ended up having to submit our skill rating in order to make sure that we can all play in like the same like league in the same skill rating as other people. So that was a whole dilemma all in itself because people didn't know how to screenshot their own screens. People wouldn't send them in, and if they don't send in the forms, I can't play them. So I had to do a lot of background stuff in order to make sure that these people would actually, um, hand in their SR so we could actually start playing games. So we get to our first match, and we absolutely get rolled. And it's a bit demoralizing because we ended up doing a bunch of scrimmages with a bunch of other teams, and we ended up like steamrolling them. And then when we eventually got to our actual game, we ended up losing by a long shot. And it was a bit demoralizing. Nobody wanted to play anymore. And I'm like, no, 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 please, please, please. And then slowly everybody starts dropping out, and then I'm struggling to get people in order to, play the game. And we were able to barely finish out the season. And I was like, okay, how about guys, what if we try out for a different league? Since the rules in what's the name? In this one league called the CCC were much different. Sorry, would be much different in this more professional league called Console Overwatch, or the Console Gaming League. That's what it was, the Console Gaming League, where I thought a lot of things were more professional. So, anyways, so I sign everybody up. I sign everybody who wants to be signed up, and I say, hey, I want to get serious about this because let me actually backtrack a bit. So, when it comes to skill rating, it's all based off your when it comes to team skill rating, it's all based off your own like SR, your own skill rating, and you can't have people on your team if you're playing with a 2,500 to 3,000 skill rating. You can't have people that are 4,000 skill rating in your team. You can only have a max of around, I think it's for that league, it's around like around 3,200. So that's where everybody was. Everybody on my team was either 2,500, was in that 2,500 to the 3,000 range, that 3,000 range. But I accidentally ended up going over that max limit of 3,250, and I ended up reaching an SR level of 3,267. So, knowing that, we all have to play in a league above us. So all these people, all these poor people, all have to play with people that are 500 skill level above them. So that's a big problem. So I said, hey, I know we're more used to playing with people in our own skill range, but I know we can do much better than that. So I ended up hiring a coach in order to help us play the game better. Because now we actually have to start getting serious, and we can't just, just do, like comfortable picks. We have to start playing metas and stuff like that. Um, so I ended up hiring my friend who plays Overwatch and studies Overwatch League, Edward, as you may have previously heard his name mentioned. I ended up hiring him, but he's not an Xbox player. He's a PC player, but his level of knowledge on the game is far superior to what I had. So, anyways, so he has a meeting with all of these teammates over the summer. I'm not home. I'm over all the way in Florida, so I'm nowhere near my Xbox, so I can't play with these people. So he's desperately trying to like work with them, and they're just not having any of it. They're just acting like children. Mind, these people are also in 8th grade. And it was very frustrating for him to try to work with them. So when we eventually finally tried getting a scrimmage together, everybody ended up getting upset because Edward ended up getting mad at them because they weren't following what what was meta. and what they were supposed to practice, and it was more just again reverting back to just playing comfort picks. And they ended up getting rolled because the other team is playing meta and they're playing it well, and they're just steamrolling us. And Edwards yelling at them because they're just not listening. They don't want to improve. And I'm over here, I'm sitting watching the stream. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then everybody starts dropping out. I get a message from one guy, and he says, "Oh, I don't. If this is how it's gonna be, I don't want to do this no more." Another guy messages me, "Oh, I don't want to do this no more. This took the fun out of it." Another guy messages me, and they all just same thing. "I don't want to do this no more. This isn't fun. I don't want to play in this league, etc., etc." So even though I did sign all these people up on my roster, out of the 9 people that originally started it, 3 people stayed, and you need to have a 6-man roster. So it was very, very, very upsetting to see all this work that I put in pretty much go to waste and go down the drain. But I was very determined to make sure that this would happen. So I ended up running a bunch of recruitment campaigns. I ended up hosting 3 tryouts in order to see who could play the best and who would fit on the team. And I did that, and then they all quit. I had an entirely different roster ready of people who tried out, who showed that they would want to do this, and then they all quit. And they're like, not, they're basically saying it's like, oh, not to make you upset or anything. I'm like, you're quitting. You're making me upset regardless. So they're like, sorry. I'm like, your sorries aren't gonna make it better. So anyways, I hosted a second tryout. That ended up going well. I ended up having another team. They all ended up quitting too. So I'm like, what am I doing wrong? So eventually, I'm just grabbing at straws. It's not even tryouts anymore. It's like, hey, do you want to join the team? And since we don't even have a team roster, we can't even participate in league games. So we're just getting automatic loss after automatic loss after automatic loss. So everyone's looking at our team record, and they're like, why would we want to join the team that has the lowest record in the entire league? Why would I join that? And that just didn't help us at all. That I was like, I was begging people to join, and then nobody would answer because nobody cared. No, why would I join a team that's gonna lose? Because they don't have the actual team comp, and even the moderators ended up feeling bad for me. Like the casters started feeling bad for me and my team, but specifically me because they saw the amount of effort that I was trying to put into this. So time goes along. I'm still struggling to get people into this group, and one person, um, Ghost, he used to be our DPS player, and he was basically my second in command. Um, he was one of the people that stuck around after the entire fall of the original San Antonio Shook roster, and he ended up pulling his would to be girlfriend on the team, and we would play with her playing a more of a support role. Mind, she wasn't good, but he still insisted on having us play her. And ended up one day, I ended up saying, he was like, oh, we can have her play. I'm like, I really don't want to have her play because I've played with her before and she's not good. And he's like, no, 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 I swear she's changed, she's changed. And I'm like, no, she's still very terrible at the game. I even have a higher skill rating than her. I'm looking at all my stats and I'm like, why do I have better stats than this person whose role this is supposed to be their best role on? And they're like, and he's like, take that back because okay. So on top of that, so he ended up falling for her like maybe like a month before this, and she ended up rejecting him, right? So he was like, trash talking her and all this bunch. And he was trash talking her to me. I was just that guy that he just vented with. And um, so it was very interesting when he was like, I think I might be falling for her again. I'm like, dude, why? Why would you do this to yourself? You've already complained multiple times about about her, and then why are you putting yourself back in the situation? She's like, she's changed. I'm like, dude, it's still the same person in the end. So, anyways, so he's trying to defend her because they're about to go out together, and I'm like, dude, I'm not changing my opinion. This is how it is. And he ends up getting all upset with me, ends up blocking me on Discord. And since he was the one that ran all the different servers that we had, he ended up deleting every single one of the communication servers that I was in. Not kicking me out, but deleting them entirely. Except for the one server that I actually had control over. So that was bad news bears because then I had ended up having to re-invite people and then some people wouldn't respond to me. I was like, oh great, now we got a new problem. So then, since he was also a DPS player, this ghost kid, he was also a DPS player, and I had to find a new DPS player, and there's just nobody. Like every single one of them is just some toxic know-it-all, but they know nothing. And then they all of a sudden start blaming the team, even though they're dying the most and they're overextending, etc., etc., etc. So it's very hard to find good, decent DPS players. I'm telling you. And that's basically how it continued. We ended up running a barely a 7-man roster all the way until week 6. We ended up playing 7 games, most of which we've had to cancel because people couldn't attend. And it was just demoralizing because this is something I put a lot of effort into, like sleepless sleepless nights trying to get somebody to join the group. It just never worked in the end. And then people online, started like, oh, look, look who's back again. It's the leader of the doomed team, San Antonio Shock. And it was like, I ended up trying to do some more recruitment messages, and they're like, oh, don't join this team. Um, they're the worst in the league. Why don't join them? You're just only gonna get worse. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to form a team here. Like, if they knew half the struggles that I went through in order to make sure this team was staying afloat, I don't think they would be saying half the stuff that they were saying. And it ended up grabbing the sympathy of the moderators. So they came out to help in the end, but it was fruitless in the end. So then I ran into a problem where rosters ended up locking at week 7. Week 7 rosters eventually locked, meaning that I could not invite people to join my team, which is something I was just doing just to stay afloat. So now I was stuck with a 7-man roster, and then boom, next week, 2 of them quit. Just out of the blue, both of them quit. Don't even tell me a why, how, why did they, like, what was the reason? Nothing. They just quit. And I'm just sitting there looking at my 5-man roster, and I'm like, all this effort that I put into just to go to waste. So I dropped out, and then that was the last of the San Antonio Shook. Now it's just infamous as just the worst team in the league because I couldn't figure out how to assemble a 6-man roster, and I'd love to play in esports again, but I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm gonna set myself out as a free agent and have people hire me to play this game for them. Because then I'm now gonna have to work for it. Then I'm gonna have to attend scrimmages during the week, which takes away from my time studying for classes and doing other stuff that I'd like to do other than doing quote unquote game work, which is why I much preferred to have my own team so I could run it the way I'd like to and then be able to have the leisure of being able to play it more as a casual thing. So, anyways, so um, I I don't think I'm ever going to do esports again after that because that was too much. Um, I've lost my faith in being able to run an organization off after that, and I don't even want to even try to even put my name in to like I'm not even that bad of a player. Like if I could, like if I really wanted to, I could probably apply to any one of those teams and probably make it in as their tank player. But there's just so much attached to it that it's just not going to be worth it again. People who do these basically revolve their entire lives around this. And I'm like, dude, I'm 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 a student. I don't want to be doing this, and I'm gonna get kicked out because why should I be there if I'm not gonna put forth the effort when they could just hire a guy with similar skill who has more free time in order to deal with this. So it's just easily being replaceable. I haven't even touched the Xbox in like 2 weeks, so that's another thing. Um, I barely play Overwatch anymore, and I just lost my touch entirely. But I don't know. I don't think the San Antonio shook. The San Antonio shook was a quarantine thing, and I don't think that's ever coming back because there's no way those people that were on the original roster are coming back, and there's no way I'm going to be able to recruit people in order to join my team because now I've developed a reputation where we've been the worst team in the league, and there's just no redeeming from that. You're just known. Um, so I wish it didn't have to be this way, but things happen and I just have to deal with it. So now I got other passion projects such as I help run a bunch of Roblox groups. I know I'm in a one Roblox group that does line battles and like Napoleonic style. Like they're all out their muskets. They're on lines. It's basically line battles, and they're all on their lines with their muskets and they fire, yada yada yada. And I'm in a little French Empire group. I'm in the Légion du Nord, and I'm actually doing very well in that. Um, I think I can see myself doing having a lot of promise. They're actually quite famous on YouTube because we eventually one time I actually participated and there was a 3,000 player battle where 1,500 people from each side ended up coming in one instance. We all ended up doing one big huge line battle. It was amazing. It was amazing to watch, but yeah, that's one passion project. Then I ended up doing this one thing called the Grand Western Ascendancy, which was a World War II group, and our job was, to defeat the Axis and stuff like that. But that ended up running into a lot of complications with our leadership because our leader was someone who's been fighting for the quote-unquote allied cause for Roblox by um, banning harmful ideologies and Nazis from the internet, and ended up just turning into, instead of just being oh, a bunch of people are coming together, like like the people who are the British and the French on on um on the line battles, they're not really ideologically attached to those characters. It's just a more of a fun thing. When it comes to World War II community on Roblox, there is an entire ideology attached to joining these groups. Like Germans, they're a weird bunch, and then not some of the allied groups are not any better. But it's an extremely toxic community as I've come to realize over the years. I've been a part of it since 2017, and I don't think it's ever gotten better. I think it's actually just gotten worse over the years. So anyways, we did that, and then we ended up running into complications with our leadership, where our leader, uh, Nerfer Dude 16, or in this case was called Nolan Culper, ended up showing a lot of incompetency as a leader, and ended up misusing our funds that we worked so hard to obtain, and would it eventually lead the group into, we basically go broke. Like we had hundreds of thousands of Robux sitting in a bank, and this guy was planning on spending it all in the matter of a week with no plan to ever earn that money back. So we ended up actually staging a coup against him. I helped out with the coup because I was in charge of the military police. So we were able to make sure that that coup was in fact, all the soldiers all had to be led over to this new group. We had to depose Nolan Culper of power, instate a new government order, etc., etc. That was a very crazy week. So we ended up reforming ourselves into the TGR, the Grand Republic, instead of the Grand Western Ascendancy. And we ended up having a blast there. 2 weeks go by, 2 or 3 weeks go by, and school starts coming along. And everyone's like, yeah, we don't want to do this no more. There was just a collective consensus that we didn't want to continue this anymore. It just wasn't fun anymore. Um, and then nobody liked the ideologies, nobody liked the World War II community. We were like, yeah, I think it's time that we all shut down operations. So there was a whole entire memorial service, probably posting pictures somewhere around here with it, and you'll see all the photos of the little memorial service. But it was a very sad day because this is something you put in a lot of effort to. You put in months of effort into, and you just watch it all go away. But it's like it's bittersweet. It's like we still talk to these people. Like even though the group is all gone, I still actively talk to all these people on Discord. I still actively hang out with them. Like that group was just more than just a group. It was more of just an extended family, in my opinion. Like we just all know each other since we were able to form all those relationships over all those months spending together on Discord and on Roblox. So now I'm starting a new passion project, and we're gonna be playing at Trenches. There's a game on Roblox called Trenches, and it's like a cartoony version of World War One. And I'm currently leading an artillery regiment in a clan group, and we're currently at war with another nation, and we're gonna battle this Saturday in order to figure out who wins. But we lost last week. I couldn't help out because I was all the way in Rochester, so I couldn't help out. But we ended up losing. But it wasn't like it was even close. It wasn't like it was even like very decisive. Like it was day 6 and there were over 1,200 casualties. Usually after one day, there's usually around like 100, around 200 casualties after each day, and this was like day 6 and there were over 12,000. Sorry, over 2,000, and it was just very, very hard fought. Um, but I'm planning on helping them out this weekend in order to make sure that we would win, because I've yet to actually formally lose a battle on Trenches. Let that be known, I have yet to lose a battle. I never lose in Trenches. So that's going to be interesting. So I can see I have a lot of promise in that, because it's actually very interesting. The high command of this group, it's actually primarily composed of old friends that we had from the Grand Western Ascendancy and the Grand Republic. So we all know each other, and we're all good friends with each other. So we have a one up on everybody because nobody else has the skills that we have. So, that'll be very interesting. But I talked too much. So that's all I wanted to talk about. It's basically me going off on a rant, talking about different stuff that had happened to me. Primarily, I think the reason why I actually started coming here was, to talk about the San Antonio Shook, but I ended up talking about, my passion projects, San Antonio Shook, thoughts on milk and cereal, and then the Viet Quang line, and then just other miscellaneous stuff. But um, yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know when I'll record next one. I don't think next one's gonna be a solo podcast. The next one's probably gonna be recorded with the rest of the people in the Speakeasy Dwellers Discord room. So we'll see about that. Um, hopefully, hopefully something will happen to that. I don't know. I think I might just sit back and just let them talk. Like there's something about my voice. I just sound out of place whenever I hear myself in the podcast. So, oh well. I think I'm gonna end it off there. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, I guess leave a comment that says pancakes. Yeah, if you made it this far, let's type in the comment section pancakes. 'Cause we all know how much I love pancakes. No, you guys actually don't know how much I love pancakes, because I don't know. Alright, like, comment, subscribe, yada yada yada, bada bing, bada boom. Stop recording.